Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, presented by the Business Courier. Commissioners say their controversial vote on the proposed icon tax will save taxpayers millions. But what does it really mean for the future of Union Terminal and Music Hall? A downtown building that's more than a century old is now the new kid on the hotel block. And a new time and place to shop where the emphasis is on fresh. U.S. Bank Business Watch is next. Good morning and welcome to U.S. Bank Business Watch. I'm Peg Rasconi. On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, is Union Terminal worth saving? Weeks after the proposal to save both Union Terminal and Music Hall was rejected by Hamilton County Commissioners and replaced with a plan to just save Union Terminal, the question becomes, is this plan terminal? The original plan was put forward by members of the Cultural Facilities Task Force, a who's who of executives from Cincinnati's largest companies and civic institutions. The decision by commissioners not to put the tax plan to save both iconic Cincinnati institutions on the ballot angered members of the task force, who'd spent 9 months and thousands of hours developing what they thought was a bulletproof plan to save both.
If they weren't going to give the voters the chance to say yes or no to Bob McDonald and Procter & Gamble's plan for our region, they should have said so 9 months ago, before all these folks put in all this time and energy and before they asked us to commit more money, which we did.
Late last week, the Museum Center Board voted to support the sales tax and must now decide how it can make the plan work and sell the public on it. The plan calls for raising the Hamilton County sales tax from 6.75% to 7% for 5 years. Commissioner Chris Monzell told Business Courier reporter Chris Wederick that he's not sure he would personally vote for the tax. Chris wrote the cover story this week and joins Business Watch producer Kelly Leon in the studio with more on his analysis of the icon tax dilemma. Guys.
Thanks, Peg. Chris, thanks for being here. Great analysis.
Thanks.
Now, late last week, Chris Monzell said, yes, he would support it.
Yeah, we asked him, just on Friday morning, whether he would vote for it, and he would. His explanation for that was he wasn't sure when they put the tax increase on the ballot for voters to decide upon whether that it would get the support of Union Terminal's board and the supporters of the icon tax. So now that it has gotten their support, he's on board with it as well, with his own plan.
So what's changed that the task force and the Union Terminal board are now supporting it?
Well, they explained it as, they were shocked by the commissioner's vote to take Music Hall out. They thought they had a plan that was bulletproof, that really took care of the problems at both buildings. In the last couple of weeks, they've been meeting with the county staff to try to figure out financially how this would work. They believed originally that it would not work financially, that it would jeopardize some of the grants and some of the state and federal tax credits they could get to put this plan together. Their concerns have been met, and they're on board today.
So now they have to put it before voters.
Right.
What's the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is they, in voters' minds probably, they remember this going down rather, messy. So now they've got to convince voters that, hey, we were kind of hasty in our, denouncement of this, and we think we can make it work. They still don't have really the finances all put together. That's expected to be done in the next month. The election's in November, so time's running out.
Time's running out. Well, I'm sure you'll be following it as we move forward, and there's lots to still follow.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chris. Peg, back to you.
All right, thanks, Kelly and Chris. Another iconic Cincinnati building dating back to 1901 is now the home of Cincinnati's newest downtown hotel. The Renaissance Cincinnati Downtown Hotel in the old Bartlett building on 4th Street had its official grand opening last week. The 18-story building was Cincinnati's tallest for 12 years and is on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places.
We were able to save most of what existed on the first 3 floors. The rotunda here is the old banking center when this was a operating bank facility, the precursor to Fifth Third's current location.
The building had been vacant since 2010 and now includes more than 300 rooms, 40 executive suites, and a restaurant named D. Burnham's after the building's architect. Former Cincinnati investment advisor Glenn Guillermo is sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in federal prison, and he'll have to pay more than $36 million in restitution to his investors. Guillermo pleaded guilty in January to 1 count each of wire fraud and money laundering connected to a Ponzi scheme that may have topped $100 million. The sentence was handed down after nearly 2 days of hearings in which victims of the Ponzi scheme spoke out about their losses. Guillermo apologized to investors and his family in court on Thursday, the first time he spoke in the case. Now, the Business Courier was in court for the entire hearing. Be sure to read the print edition for some very moving stories from the victims. Well, can you imagine a Cincinnati without Jeff Ruby? The dean of fine dining in Cincinnati sat down for a Q&A with the Courier. At 13 years old, he was a cook in his mother's kitchen, and his first job in an upscale restaurant was as a dishwasher. A long way to becoming the owner of his own restaurant group, including the top 2 upscale restaurants in Cincinnati, Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse and The Precinct. We'll have more on that later in our book of lists.
The guy had dinner, didn't know who I was, but found out who I was last night on the cigar patio at Ruby's. He lives in Manhattan 27 years. He comes in town on business. Said there is no steak in Manhattan as good as ours. There's no steakhouse in Manhattan as good as ours. I said, thank you, and I agree with you.
For more insight into Jeff Ruby, be sure to read the full Q&A in the print edition. A group of young entrepreneurs wants to give some of our over-the-Rhine's longtime residents an opportunity to thrive in the neighborhood.
Well, the goal of Mortar is to ensure that we are supporting and encouraging entrepreneurs that come from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Mortar is a group of 3 young entrepreneurs who are launching a program to teach entrepreneurship skills to residents of Over the Rhine. The neighborhood is known for its innovative spirit, and the founders of Mortar want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to succeed.
I feel like right now there's a certain momentum that we need to capitalize on, and with all the progress that's happening, we do feel like there are some folks that have been overlooked in the neighborhood, and if we able to capitalize on this momentum, I think we can create more businesses with non-traditional entrepreneurs here in our own neighborhood.
Mortar's 9-week course is modeled after Artwork Starter's business development program for creative entrepreneurs. Initial funding came from a $2,500 Fuel Cincinnati grant, still needed $2,500 more and space to hold classes. There's another new grocery store in Oakley. Fresh Thyme Farmers Market opened last week. The store is next to LA Fitness right off the Norwood Lateral. It's the second Fresh Thyme in Ohio.
Quite frankly, throughout all of the Midwest, there's an opportunity to fill a void. Other parts of the country have similar formatted retailers having good success bringing better for you, healthy foods at lower prices in a smaller, casual format. And we simply spent an extensive period of time looking for a geography where we felt that was missing and that it would resonate with the broadest group of consumers.
Fresh Thyme is a full-service grocery store with focus on locally sourced and organic fruits and vegetables. In Williamsburg, Ohio, they're getting ready for an old firehouse to reopen as a brewery. The Old Firehouse Brewery will open its doors on September 12th with 5 styles of beer. After a 6-week delay, owners Adam Cowan and Lori Ward are ready to get down to business.
The reason why we picked this building was because I spent 16 years as a firefighter, and it just seemed like the right niche, the right village, the right place, and the right building. The footprint, the size fit exactly what we think we need.
The brewery and tap room maintains its firehouse feel, and the space is decorated with historic items and firefighter memorabilia. And the Firehouse Brewery is this week's U.S. Bank Business Watch beer story. You're welcome. Up next on U.S. Bank Business Watch, speaking of beer, guess what Tom & Chi is adding to its newest location? And the latest local shopping center to be sold to an out-of-state investor. And now we'll look at some of the stories that are getting the most attention on the Business Courier website, Twitter, and Facebook. Westchester will soon have the biggest Tom and Chi restaurant, and it will be the first to serve alcohol. The grilled cheese and tomato soup venture plans to open in Westchester in November. It will serve craft beers from local brewers and wine. Tom and Chi has 3 other local locations. Mahogany's at the Banks is closed after the restaurant violated the state of Ohio's sales tax law. An Ohio Department of Taxation spokesman said Mahogany's would be allowed to reopen if it repays the undisclosed amount it owes to the state. This is the latest in a string of financial woes for Mahogany's. 2 Cincinnati companies made this year's Inc. 500 list of the nation's fastest growing private companies. They are Legion Logistics in Florence at number 156 and E-Premium Insurance in Mason at 212. For a full list of companies, be sure to visit the Courier's website, as so many of you have already done. Lots of interest in Kroger this week and a new possible acquisition by the locally based grocery giant. But it doesn't look like the acquisition of Market Basket is meant to be. Market Basket is a 71-store chain based in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. There was word that Kroger could be on the prowl for another acquisition, but by the end of the week, Market Basket was not on the market. And the interest in shopping is further confirmed by the hits a story received about the sale of a local shopping center. Bridgewater Falls in Fairfield Township sold for $85.5 million. Prior to that purchase, Michigan-based Ramco Gershenson Properties had also purchased Buttermilk Town Center and Deerfield Town Center, all 3 coming in the last 8 months. Well, we're continuing our focus on back to school this week with a report card on the important aspects of consumer shopping trends. As the second busiest shopping season of the year, the back to school season is an accurate gauge of the consumer's willingness and ability to spend big at the retail level. Our very own Jim Russell, a U.S. Bank Wealth Management Senior Equity Strategist, joins Business Courier editor Rob Dahlmeyer in the studio to share his perspective in this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360. Rob and Jim?
Thanks very much, and Jim, thanks for being here.
Rob, good morning.
So back to school, I really honestly didn't realize that back to school shopping was number 2 in consumer spending. What does the average family spend on back to school?
Well, in a phrase, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of money. It's $74.9 billion here in the United States in terms of aggregate back to school spending. That's a pretty big number. As you'd mentioned, the second largest behind holiday shopping. Right. A lot of families really struggle with this a little bit. More than one child in the house, and perhaps maybe even some kids that are a little bit older. And as we'll see here in just a second, the numbers actually go up a bit as you move up the food chain in terms of the school experience. K through 6, a lot of that, of course, is going to be apparel. Middle school, high school, and college, though, get into some different dynamics. You start, a lot of schools actually suggest very strongly or actually require a laptop at the high school level. Certainly college does, and college, of course, includes furniture. So it really ties into a pretty big expenditure, $304,000 to raise a child from birth to the age of 18. Certainly this is a big part of it.
Yeah, that's staggering. So what are the trends saying so far? It's still August, but schools are pretty much back now. What are the trends so far?
We don't have a complete nationwide data set just yet. It looks like a good but not great back to school season. Highly promotional. I will tell you the retailers are really battling it out for the incremental dollar. Flash sales, matching pricing. Certainly the online experience, of course, counts quite a bit. The consumer remains very, very price sensitive. Comparison shopping is done via computers, online, mobile phones, etc., where one store will be played off another. And of course, electronics, again, a priority. The computer operators, the online operators out there are very aware that back to school is a big deal for them as well.
A lot of these computers really have come down to just price. I mean, it's almost a commodity at this point, but still pretty expensive, even the cheap laptops. What does this tell us about consumer sentiment in general? Any trends that you think we should be aware of? You said it's very competitive, but how does that relate to the entire economy?
That's a great question, Rob, in that back to school is a pretty good gauge for maybe where the consumer's head is and wallet is going into the all-important holiday season, which kicks off right around Thanksgiving. So, what we're seeing is about a 4% year-over-year increase in back-to-school sales. Right. Again, good but not great. I think the retailers were maybe looking for just a little bit more. 50% of the families shop at discount stores, again comparing prices amongst stores and of course via online, and 36%, surprisingly, of families don't shop at all. It's hand-me-downs and schools supplies that were left over from last year. So again, the economizing that's going on at the family level prior to the holiday shopping season really indicates that it's a very careful consumer, very promotional at the retail level. So it'll be kind of a tricky holiday season, we think, in terms of consumer participation.
Which is coming right up. I'm already seeing pumpkins at Kroger, and then as soon as the pumpkins are done, then we get to Christmas, probably in, I don't know, a couple hours.
No kidding.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Back to you.
All right, thanks, gentlemen. And still to come on U.S. Bank Business Watch, some local entrepreneurs made some big pitches last week. We'll talk to a big winner in the Artworks Big Pitch competition. In this morning's Business Insight, when it comes to new ideas, we have a winner. 8 finalists pitched their entrepreneurial ideas in Artworks Big Pitch, presented by U.S. Bank. Each finalist worked with a local business mentor and a U.S. Bank small business banking specialist for 10 weeks leading up to the event, which was judged by a panel of prominent local professionals. The big winner was Chris Sutton of Noble Denim. He took home the $15,000 grand prize. Sutton designs and manufactures locally sourced American-made jeans. He plans to use this grant to expand his production to meet increasing demand for Noble Denim products in the U.S. and abroad. Django Kroner won the $5,000 Audience Choice Award. He plans to use the funding to help construct treehouse rentals in Red River Gorge. Sounds fun. Well, joining us this morning is Django Kroner and Caitlin Beal, who's the Creative Enterprise Manager for Artworks. They joined Business Courier publisher Jamie Smith in the studio.
Thanks, Peg. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Sounds like a great program. Congratulations to you. Audience Choice, to me, that's a great award, right?
It is.
I mean, the consumers are out there saying we love your product.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about the experience and why you did this and what you're going to do with the winnings.
Well, I found out about the Big Pitch through the Artworks co-starter class. Sean Mulaney, who was running it, encouraged me to do it, and I thought, why not now? So that launched me into the Big Pitch, and it was kind of a lighting the wick to a big project. And yeah, I would like to use the funds to put it into the treehouse rental project in any way that I can.
Talk just briefly about the treehouse project. What exactly is it? Let our viewers know.
So essentially, I just really want to get people into that canopy experience. Seeing the forest from that view, I think, really just opens up your mind to a whole new way of thinking, and just it brings you me a lot of contentment. So the best way to get people into the canopy is to have rentals, treehouse rentals down in the gorge. It's a beautiful wilderness, so I want to just have that opportunity to provide that experience to people.
Well, it sounds like it'd bring the kid out in you, wouldn't it? With me, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Caitlin, tell me a little bit about where the idea came from to do this competition.
Well, pitch competitions aren't super uncommon. We've had a few competitions around the city. So Cincy Sundays, for instance, you pay $5 and you can pitch your idea, and people eat ice cream and then can vote on their favorite idea. That's not our project, but you know, we've seen a lot of different pitch competitions where you can pitch a project or you can pitch an idea. You might be able to pitch a startup business, a new business, but Artworks really saw a gap in funding and opportunities for creative businesses that are already established. So we asked that all the businesses who applied were in business for a minimum of 2 years. And the applications came flooding in because they were creatives. They all came in the last day. But you know, we saw an amazing pool of talent of creatives, designers, makers, you know, jewelry makers, furniture makers, people who have out-of-the-box ideas like Django, who builds tree houses. And yeah, we paired them up with a mentor and U.S. Bank small business banking representatives, and we wanted to build them up for success. They were all posed for growth, And we really wanted to know what could we do to help get them to that next level. So some people, they need direction, and so we have co-starters for that. Some people need just an infusion of cash, and so we thought this $15,000 business grant could really help. And some people really just need some guidance, whether it's through pro bono law services or accounting services, and so that's actually where these first and second runner-up prizes came from.
That's awesome. Now, I'm assuming that because they were in business for 2 years, you felt like there was some sustainability already there. You know,
Absolutely.
They had done some things right and could continue to grow. Great. Now, you said, I think Django got to start in a class that's getting ready to come up, that's upcoming soon. Talk a little bit about that class.
Yeah, so actually our Creative Enterprise Division started in 2011, and we had launched a program called Springboard. That program is now called Co-Starters. It's a 9-week business development course specifically aimed at creative entrepreneurs. So whether you just have an idea and you're like, ooh, am I ready to take the leap to start my own business? Or maybe you've already been in business for a couple of years and you really just need that guidance to take it to the next level. Applications are open now. They're rolling. We have 4 classes throughout the year. So the next class starts in September. You want to sign up?
That sounds
like
a lot of fun. It sounds like a lot of fun. Tell me what that class, that really got things started for you?
Well, more than anything, it's just an opportunity to be in a space to have any question you have answered by someone who has a lot of experience. And even if they don't have the answer, they'll be able to put you in touch with someone that does. So, I mean, that's a priceless opportunity for